All right, it's 12:15. Can you hear me? Okay, it's 12:15. I'd like to call the meeting of the Northeast ISD School Health Advisory Council to order. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of SHAC members present. This meeting is in compliance with Section 28.004 of the Texas Education Code and applicable board policy. The council's meeting today will address only the topics of the agenda. No other topics will be discussed during the meeting. SHAC meetings are open to the public. Guests wishing to address the SHAC may do so by emailing SHAC committee at shac@neisd.net. Any persons that cause disruption during the meeting will be asked to leave. Thank you for your cooperation. All right. Well, welcome. The first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 2nd, 2023. If you'll please review those.
Just as a reminder, if you need to access them online to review, you can scan the QR code that's either on your table or on the screen. Trying to save a little bit of paper this year and not print everything, so if you need to look at them, either of those should get there.
Is there a motion to approve the June 2nd, 2023 minutes? We have a motion. Second? Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand. Aye. All those opposed say nay and raise your hand. All right. The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Great. Okay, the second item is the introduction of SHAC members. Okay, this is going to be like the name game here. So I would like for you to please stand up and provide your name, the SMD that you represent, your occupation, the number of kids that you have and where they attend, and a fun fact. All right. I'm sorry?
What's on there right now?
Oh, you're right.
That's last year's.
Well, it is everywhere except Madison. I will fix it right now.
Oh, okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right, does everybody understand the instructions? Okay, so name, your SMD, your occupation, the number of kids and where they attend, and then a fun fact. I'm sorry, it's challenging fun facts. Okay, do we want to start over here, or do you want me to start? Okay, I'll start. Okay, I'm going to sit. Because if I stand, I'll be right in the light. Okay, my name is Tony Kamen. I represent the Johnson cluster. I am the chairperson for the SHAC, and I appreciate everybody's acceptance to come. I'm looking forward to working with everyone. Let's see. I have my occupation. I am a civil engineer. I work in the construction industry. I've been doing that for 30 years. My number of kids. I have 4 kids. 2 are in college. One's in grad school. One's kind of taking a sabbatical. I have a senior at Johnson who's getting ready to graduate, and I'm not used to that, even though I had 2 graduate already. And then I've got a sophomore there at Johnson. And let's see here. Fun fact. My alter ego is a coach, and I'm blessed to coach my daughter's. I'm one of the coaches for my daughter's softball team, so I get to do a lot of traveling and spend a lot of time with her. That's my fun fact. All right. Next.
Do I stand or am I sitting?
Mine.
No. Okay.
And I'm not going to. I can say that.
Yes, it's true. I'm Sandy Winkley. The single member district is one as a business community member. I am an engagement coordinator for a public accounting firm in San Antonio. We have 2 children who are adults and have their own jobs and their own places. It's amazing. And fun fact, I am an NEISD product. I went to elementary, middle school, and high school in NEISD.
Okay. My name is Anna Ramsey. I am at the same district at Churchill cluster. I am lucky to be a stay-at-home mom, but my background is pediatrics and school nursing. My kiddos are in 7th grade at Bradley, 2 boys, 7th grade at Bradley, and 3rd grade at Hidden Forest. My fun fact is I'm an identical twin. Oh. But she's nothing.
So hi, I'm Lauren Peterson, part of the Churchill cluster. I have 4 sons. 2 have already graduated from Churchill and are in college. One at Hope College in Michigan and one at Xavier in Cincinnati. And then I have a freshman at ISA this year and a 7th grader at Jackson Middle School. I do oncology sales, so I've done that for a while. And my fun fact is my husband and I are both NEISD products, so elementary all the way through high school. He graduated from Lake, and I graduated from Churchill, so it's interesting that our kids are starting to kind of do that too. My name is Monty Solomon, and I'm from the SMD one. And my occupation is that I'm a teacher and an administrator. I don't do that anymore. My husband and I own Alamo Business Solutions. We have 3 kiddos. One went into business and works for Hunt Oil, so that's kind of fun. My daughter is an OR nurse in Denver. So they're all kiddos from the Nancy. I feel really proud of them for that. And then my last one is a sophomore at Baylor and just kind of navigating the world of adulting. A fun fact about me is that actually I was an assistant principal here at for Harmony Hills.
Hello everyone, my name is Fatima Michelle. I'm part of the Roosevelt Cluster, District 2. I'm a manager at HEB and also I'm a instructor for adult classes in a Mexican university that has a campus here in San Antonio. I have 4 kids, 2 already graduated from Roosevelt. They are in San Antonio College. And I have a junior at Madison in the agri science program. And my little baby just started in school at Edward. I can't get over that, so I'm trying to help myself. And fun fact, I'm part of Hispanic theater group. So right now we are practicing theater fund and musical in Spanish.
Please. I'm Jessica Esslinger, and I'm part of the Diane Villarreal's cluster, Lead Cluster. As a community member, last year I was as a parent. None of my kids are in public school anymore, but I'm still passionate about this. So I'm a community member. Mainly, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I also do some sales. But managing a household is tough. A fun fact about me is that I'm not from Texas, because you can clearly tell I know accents. And I don't say y'all. Only once. And then I'll
Pecan or pecan?
It's pecan pie and it's the pecan, so I'm sorry. I've already got that from a friend that lives in Bernie.
I'm Ron Shivey. I'm with the Lead Cluster as well. I have 3 daughters. The younger 2 are at Castle Hills in 2nd and 4th grade. And our oldest, it's a story worth hearing, but our oldest she elected to go to Providence this year, so she started 6th grade down in Providence and had her first volleyball game yesterday. And she's this tall and this skinny, and she can hit the ceiling with the volleyball, and it's not this short. I work for the airlines, and fun fact about me, I have landed both on water
media entertainment company. Been there for a long time. What else did I say? Let's see. Oh, the schools. Oh, and a fun fact. I enjoy dancing, so I'm part of a bachata team, and we perform. We learn routines, and we audition, and we get to perform at other locations.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Sherrick, and really should probably be in District 1. I was a Churchill parent. I have 4 boys, all young men now. My youngest is a junior at A&M. My husband and I own our own business. We have a manufacturing business and manufacture huge shelving units for other major manufacturers. But out of my years of being an NEISD parent, always extremely involved on all levels, from elementary school all the way until they graduated. And I guess fun fact for me is I had 10 years of varsity athletics with having 4 boys. So that was a lot in a row.
I'm Carla Kimmel. I'm with SMD4. I have 4 children. So I have twin boys. They graduated from MacArthur. I have a daughter that is a sophomore at NESA, and then a daughter that is a 6th grader at Garner. My occupation is I'm an executive director of HR and marketing for a special education company here in town. And fun fact, is that what was left? Trying to think, but I was an extra in a Sandra Bullock movie called Miss Congeniality. So everybody see me for 10 seconds?
You weren't the person that pulled the the person that pulled the lighter that looked like the gun, right?
No. And I look exactly the same.
Okay, I am Robin Shefeld. I'm with the MacArthur cluster. I have 3 boys, all at Northwood Elementary. Stay-at-home mom, occupation, and fun fact, I teach a few classes at the Y and at Gold's group fitness classes.
All right, my name is Lori Fitch. I'm with the MacArthur Cluster. I have 2 boys. One is a sophomore at Texas Tech. The other is a junior in the STEM program at Lee. I have worked for over 20 years with a pediatric practice in nursing. Fun fact, I have become a pickleball fiend.
Challenging you, Lori.
Hi everyone, my name is Bonnie Scott, and I'm with Trustee Byers over here from MacArthur. My occupation is I'm a licensed professional counselor. I own a private therapy practice here in the district. I have 1 kiddo. She's a 4th grader at Northwood, and a fun fact about me is I am learning to play the piano.
Hi, I'm Lisa Farrell, and I'm a community member, but both my kids graduated from MAC. Go Brahma. I work at AIM, Assessment Intervention Management, with recruiting and office manager, so I'm a community member here. 2 boys, both MAC grads. 1 graduated from Texas Tech, and 1 is at Tech as a sophomore. And a fun fact is I'm a huge Red Raider fan, so wreck 'em.
Back to the front.
Jennifer Taylor, I have 1 kid. He is a freshman at Johnson, so I'm with Johnson Cluster. I was an accountant, and my fun fact was because I retired a week and a half ago. So.
Debbie, I'm a community member. I have 2 students attending ISD schools, and one is currently an aerospace engineer for the
I'm Sean Metcalf. I'm a community representative. I represent the clergy. I'm one of the pastors at Community Bible Church. Been there for over 22 years. I'm the senior adult pastor, the youngest. I love what I get to do. I've got 2 kids that are products of NEISD. They are both at Texas A&M University. I've got a senior who graduates in December, praise God, and then I've got a sophomore. So 2 fun facts, I've been on 5 to 7 continents, so Ron, I need a ride to the other 2. And then my daughter will graduate from Texas A&M in just 2.5 years, which is fantastic, mostly because she walked in with 50 college credit hours from NEISD.
Whoop, whoop.
My name is Susanna Harris. I am part of the Johnson cluster. I have 3 children, a daughter who is in 8th grade now at Texville, and 2 boys at Civil Green Elementary in 5th and 1st grade. Occupation, I just graduated with my master's degree in public health this past May, and currently seeking employment. Fun fact about me is I love to scuba dive.
I'm Brandon Broom. I'm in the Reagan cluster. This will be my 2nd year to be part of the SHAC. I have 2 kids, one in 8th grade, one in 10th grade. My 8th grader is actually at a Christian school. My son is at the Lee cluster. He was in NEISD in our district and has moved down there chasing an engineering degree and getting all sorts of his credits at the magnet program at Lee. And he loves it. It's been absolutely wonderful. Fun fact about me, kind of like Tony, when I'm not seen at work, then I'm going to be out on the fields coaching the kids and chasing them around out there. I'm a physician, by the way. I didn't say that. My passion is really, I do orthopedic surgery, but in preventive medicine and health prevention more so than anything. And hence my desire to be up here and help if I can.
I'm Stephanie Murphy, the Reagan cluster. I have 3 children. 2 graduated from college at UTSA. They went through Reagan. I have a daughter that's a sophomore at Reagan High School. And I'm a stay-at-home mom. And for fun, I work out any way I can.
My name is Diana Parker. This is my 3rd year on SHAC. I'm in the Reagan cluster. I have 2 kids. I have a 7th grader at a Christian school, and then I have a 2nd grader at Hardy Oak Elementary. For occupation, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I did teach for Northeast for 7 years. I taught kindergarten and 1st grade. And then a fun fact is when I was 9 years old, I was on Good Morning Houston as a hair model, and I don't know what happened because but back then I guess I had pretty good hair.
Your hair looks great.
My name is Ashley Thompson. I'm also from the Reagan cluster. This is my 1st year on the SHAC. I'm a very appointed nominee, but my background is in education, and I taught 1st grade for 7 years before being a stay-at-home mom. We have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. Our oldest is in 5th grade at Tuscany. Our next is at 7th grade in Tuscany. We have a 5-year-old girl. We're doing transitional kindergarten at home with her this year, and we have a 3-year-old firecracker. So my fun fact about me is in high school we were a really small school, and we didn't have through the NCAA we didn't have junior teams, so there was only varsity soccer, and we didn't have enough players to go with the boys team.
Should this be being passed around?
Starting position as a right
Yes.
and
Hi, I am Tracy Carlson. I am a SHAC community member in the Reagan cluster. I am the owner of Alive Health Integrated Wellness. My children are out of school, but my son did graduate from Churchill. Fun fact, I'm also not a Texas native. I'm from Baltimore.
My name is Ben Thomas with the 7, so it's Madison cluster. So I have 3 kids in the district. I have a 2nd grader and a 4th grader at Thousand Oaks, and I have a 6th grader at Bradley. I do medical device sales, and my fun fact is before I did all this, I was a professional baseball player.
Ben Elliott, 2nd year on the SHAC. Last year I had the pleasure of leading the Chase Committee and all of our endeavors that got so much love. I'm happy to be back. I'm looking forward forward to this year. I have 3 children, high schooler, 10th grader at Madison, I have an 8th grader at Harris, about to be 2 teenagers. It's fun times. And then I have a 3rd grader who goes to a Christian private school. My occupation is sales. I've been an outside salesman for 20 years, but this year I decided to take a management position with my company, and a drastic change, from managing 1 person to managing 25. So it's like being a dad, but at work. Fun fact, I'm a single father, raised my boys by myself, and our hobby is motocross. All of us ride dirt bikes on the weekends.
My name is Anna Mink. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a private practice in the Stone Oak area, do trauma work mostly with veterans. Part of Madison. My husband and I have 2 kids, both of them in the final ETA classes at Roosevelt. And fun fact about me, I also am not from Texas. I'm native Hawaiian and born and raised on Maui.
I'm Crystal Keene, and part of SMD 7. I am here as a community member. I'm a registered nurse for over 14 years. My background is cardiology. I have 2 children, 17-year-old and a 3-year-old. And fun fact is I'm related to Lucille Ball, so I'm pretty funny.
Wow, how do I follow that? I'm Jackie Watts. I'm a salesperson. I sell market intelligence for a consulting firm. I'm in District 7, Landry's district. This is my first year on this SHAC. So I recently acquired a child who's going to Harris Middle School. And my fun fact is I tried my best to talk him out of taking piano and clarinet at the same time and failed miserably. And I have 3 children that graduated from ISD that are grown and gone. So you're never too old to get a whole new family.
We're doing district, okay.
Yeah.
I'm Kyra Bush, and I work here in Northeast ISD in guidance services. I have 2 grown daughters in their 20s. One is they're both in Boston, and one is an attorney in Boston, and the other is in marketing. She's a marketing analyst. Fun fact is my husband and I have a little sweet place in Maine that someday we'll be there.
Oh, nice.
We go across the table.
Name's Lloyd McCampbell. I'm the chief of police for the district. I had 3 kids. One graduated from Northeast, from Churchill. I'm a product of Northeast, Churchill. And my fun fact is 3.5 weeks ago, I came to Grandpa for the first time.
Aww, yay!
My name is Katie Steinhoff. I am the health instructional specialist for the PE and health department. I have 2 kiddos that attend Northeast. They are both in elementary school in the dual English program, so I'm super proud of them. And my fun fact is that I absolutely love to mountain climb and have climbed the highest peak in North America.
Oh, we go across the table.
I'm Brandon Turner. I am the PE instructional specialist. This is my 16th year. 2 boys. Unlike everybody else, I'm in the Shirt-Cibolo district. And my fun fact is I got chickens.
Okay, that's good.
Got chickens? What you got chickens?
Got 6 of them.
My name is Emma Kelly. I'm the Director of Health Services here in Northeast. This is my 13th year with the district. I have 2 kids, 2 teenagers. Yeah, like that's a thing. A lot of you people have 4 kids and still have fun facts, which I think is incredibly impressive. I feel like my fun fact is going to be for all the people I've heard here who are registered nurses. You can go to NEISD. HR. We're a wonderful team to work with. So check that out.
That was so spot on.
My name is Rebecca Kamichik. I'm the academic Enablement Coordinator at NEAC, Northeast Alternative Center. I don't know, 17th, 18th year in education. Who's counting?
You're not retired yet.
Just whenever they can tell me I can retire is when I stop. I'm not fun, so I don't have a fun fact. Ask the students. Not fun. But I learned I only have 3 wisdom teeth this summer. All 3 of them are extracted. Hopefully that 4th one does not. Happy to be here. This is like my 3rd or 4th year on SHAC too, so nice to meet you all.
I'm Evan Henson. I'm with the communication department for the district. I've been here for 3 years. I've got a 2nd grader, and I'm also related to Lucille Wall.
You know, as Ricky would say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. I'm sorry, that was shameless, but I had to say it.
And I will round us out. I'm Jennifer Aguilar. I'm the person behind the emails. I'm the SHAC facilitator, but my real job is actually the director of PE and health for Northeast ISD. I have 2 children. They both graduated from Northeast a long time ago. They're both adults. My son actually just graduated with his PhD from UCLA this summer. So he is now doing research for Boeing and the U.S. Defense. So super excited that he's on his own. My daughter is a kindergarten teacher in Kansas, sadly, and I have 2 grandbabies. And my fun fact, I'm not fun either, Rebecca. I think, interesting fact, I don't know how fun it is. I was the girls' soccer coach at Churchill, and we were blessed to have some really good runs, made it to the state tournament. And Mitch Knauf right here made sure that my athletes were always ready by putting them in trash cans filled with ice water after games. And he would carry them out of town to tournaments so that my kids could continue to ice bathe when we were out of town. So, and I do want to introduce Mitch. Mitch is not officially a part of SHAC, but he is our program specialist, and he helps with all the technology that's going on as we're doing these meetings. He helps me take notes, and he orders the food, most importantly. So thank you to Mitch for all of his help. And Tony, I think that's everyone.
Mr. Kamen, can I?
Christy came in late. Mr. Hilliard as well.
You go first. You get to introduce yourself, I think, is just. Oh, I'm one too, but that's another story.
Christy, I can drop you off on my way to Kansas to visit my daughter. We'll carpool. Let's get together.
Okay. Hello, everyone. First off, great to see you. I'm Steve Hilliard. This year, I'm the Board of Trustees representative. We're here as a resource. I'm a resource. So I want to start off by saying thank you to each of y'all for volunteering your time. Welcome back to those who have been on there for a while. To all the new members, thank you for committing your time to serve the community, what's best for all the kids across the district. Just so y'all know, I do not vote. To be clear on my roles, I do not vote. I'm here as a resource. And if there's anything that the SHAC decides through Mr. Kamen, we can work with the board president to get it on an agenda if y'all need to make some formal recommendations throughout the year. I'm here really as a resource. And Mr. Kamen and I talked briefly. There is, right now in the BDF and bylaws, there's a minor conflict on the standing committee chairs. The BDF says parent only. Bylaw says parent or community member. The BDF, legal policy, local, and the bylaws, just for y'all's consideration. Mr. Kamen is aware, and y'all can address that as appropriate. But ultimately, I'm really just here as a resource if you have questions. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I'm from the Reagan cluster area. I have 2 kids at Reagan area high schools. And my fun fact is I am a graduate, as are all of my siblings, from Roosevelt High School. Proud Rough Rider a few decades ago. That's it. Thanks, Mr. Kamen.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Kamen, sorry. Board President is here. I just thought we should recognize Mrs. Grona is here, our Board President. Well, she's just sitting in as well, but I think it's important to recognize her. Thank you for being here.
Ms. Gronick? Ms. Grona, would you like to, or Madam President, would you like to stand up, please? Share some fun facts.
My license plate says Mom to Ags because I have two Aggie grads.
Yeah. Thank you very much for everybody participating and having some fun with this. All right. So the next item on the agenda is the election of a vice chairperson. So per Article 5 of the bylaws, first meeting we need to elect a chairperson and a vice chair. Since I am the current chairperson, and as this is my second term, we're just going to elect a vice chair. And because what they have to do is they have to have alternating 2-year terms. So the responsibility of the vice chair shall be to preside at the SHAC meetings in the absence of the chairperson, serve as an ex officio member on all committees without a vote, perform other responsibilities as may be described by the SHAC, which are in accordance with the SHAC's authorizing statutes, district policy, and direction of the board, as well as, in addition, the vice chair shall oversee the activities of all standing committees. So the board, let's see here. The board preference is for officers to serve at least 1 year of service on the SHAC in order to be considered for a chairperson or vice chair. No officer shall be an employee of the NEISD. The newly elected officers will assume their position immediately, so I don't have to sit up here by myself, and after the election of the full SHAC membership. So nominations are now in order for the office of vice chairperson.
Hey, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Point of clarity, because I just had to ask that question. Go back on the slide, the vice chairperson not getting to vote, that's not entirely true. Clarify this for me. If they're on the committee that they're assigned to, they're standing.
They
vote on that one, but not all the other ones.
That's correct. So the chair and the vice chair can vote in their particular standing committees. It's just when we have a group vote as a entire SHAC, that's when they abstain.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to nominate Ron Scheibe, even though I don't think he wants me to.
All right. All right. We have a nomination, Ron Scheibe.
All right, I'm going to re-say this for the microphone. Ben Elliott, Madison Cluster, I nominate Ron Scheibe to be the SHAC vice chair.
All right. We have a nomination.
Can you give it to Ron so he can accept or not? Do you accept the nomination?
I'll accept.
I said too bad.
Are there any other nominations, or are we going to elect Ron by acclamation? I see no one. Going once, going twice. All right, welcome, Ron Scheibe. So I guess I need to actually put that up to a vote since we don't know.
I don't know if we have to if nobody else is running.
Right. Although, okay, let's just go ahead and do this. All those in favor of Ron Scheibe serving as the chairperson for the 2023-2020?
Vice Chair.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's doggone it. I tried. Okay. Let me go ahead and do that again. All those in favor of Ron Scheibe serving as the vice chair for the SHAC for the 2023-2024 school year, please say aye and raise your hands. All those opposed, say nay. Raise your hands. The ayes have it, and Ron is duly elected. Congratulations.
Yes, Mr. Scheibe, you are. Now you get to sit at the dais with.
You don't get to use this. All right, that's great. Glad to see our vice chairs already cleaning up stuff. So, all right. Next item is the presentation, design, and function of the SHAC. Ms. Jen Aguilar.
Welcome, everyone, to our new 23-24 school year. As I introduce myself, I'm Jennifer Aguilar, the SHAC facilitator, and this is kind of the same presentation that we do every year. So really for the benefit of our new people, but I think it's always good for all of us to get reminders of some of our activities and the design of SHAC. So I'm just going to kind of walk us through what SHAC is. So thank you for saying yes to serving on SHAC number 1. And the biggest question then becomes, so what is SHAC? Right? We said yes, but we're not even always sure what we've said yes to when we do it, right? So just so that you are aware and give you a little bit of a history lesson. SHAC really started in 1995 with Senate Bill 1 in the 74th Legislature regular session, and it amended Chapter 28 of the Texas Education Code by adding Section 28.004. So basically, everything having to do with SHAC really is set in the Texas Education Code 28.004 at this point. Since 2001, Texas legislation continues to pass bills that amend the role of SHAC and typically giving them more and more roles in more and more roles involved in the school district. So it is an advisory group. So you are on an advisory group that advises to the Northeast ISD Board of Trustees. Now, one thing that we've learned to say in the Classroom Health and Sex Ed Committee is that as a SHAC, we don't have a vote on anything. Only the Board of Trustees really votes on anything, right? But as a SHAC, we have a voice that we lend to the trustees. So we are an advisory board. So we just like to make that clear. Like SHAC cannot make any decisions on their own. Everything is a recommendation to the board. It is required by every school district. And its purpose is to assist districts with ensuring that local community values are reflected in the school district's health programs. Now, we say health programs as a whole. That's why we have Emma Kelly from Health Services as part of SHAC. This isn't just health curriculum. It is the health program. It's everything that we do to ensure the health of our students. And your role is really to provide advice and recommendations on school health and its impact on students and staff. And then lastly, and this is really our chairman's job, is to provide a written report of the activities for the year to the school board. So every year we have to turn in all the activities, any recommendations, everything that we've done in our group. So kind of at the, the big picture, that's what we are as the School Health Advisory Council. A lot of the information that I am providing you can be found in the document. You can see the picture on the screen. It's called School Health Advisory Council, a Guide for Texas School Districts, which comes from the Department of Health and Human Services, which is where they have a whole SHAC website. So this is actually linked on our SHAC website, which you can find at www.neisd.net/SHAC at any point, so you can find that there. What is the impact of SHAC? Well, ideally, SHACs are created to create a healthy school environment. And the reason they came about is because what we know from research is that healthier students are better learners. So this isn't just a we want our kids to participate in more physical activity every day. What we know is when students are actively engaged in physical activity, when they're eating right with nutrition, when they are making healthy decisions, they are also better learners. So it impacts their learning as well. And so what the SHAC is designed to do is to help bring parents and community stakeholders together to help in that mission, because it's too big to rely on a school alone to be able to help students learn how to make healthier choices that will last a lifetime. So SHAC is designed to bring everyone together to that call. So our mission, as written in the bylaws that were adopted last November, so this is exactly the language that was in the bylaws, to provide advice and recommendations / counsel prior to decisions pertaining to the areas of health education curriculum appropriate for specific grade levels. That may include a coordinated school health program designed to prevent obesity, cardiovascular disease, and type 2 diabetes through coordination of health education, physical education, nutritional services, parental involvement, staff wellness, environmental health, mental and emotional wellness, and health services. That is a mouthful of a sentence. It's not a run-on, but it is a lot. It's a long sentence. But really, that is everything. And this comes actually straight out of the law. So this wasn't really kind of our ad hoc committee of the board last year is the one who kind of rewrote the bylaws that we have in effect right now. And so they included this mission in there. And really, two things I want to point out is it's a coordinated school health program. And so that is why we involve everyone. We involve health services. It's why we involve counseling. That's why Kyra is here with guidance services. And then you can see all the areas that we address. Sometimes it is seen that the SHAC really only deals with health curriculum. But as you can see, there are lots of other factors that SHAC actually deals with outside of health curriculum. That is one aspect of it, but we also deal with mental and emotional wellness, environmental health, all of that. So that's really the mission of SHAC. So now I'm going to kind of shift out of law and a little bit more specifically to Northeast and how Northeast SHAC is designed, how it functions, how we communicate. So our Northeast design of SHAC, and some of this is still sitting in law, of course, the majority must be parents of students enrolled in the district, so 51%. The way Northeast has divided out our membership is that parents and legal guardians, we have 4 per SMD. So we have 7 single-member districts, and each trustee named 4 parents. Each trustee also named 2 community members to represent their SMD. And then there are 8 district employees that are named by position, not by name. So their position is what is approved, and then whoever is serving in that position then is congratulations on SHAC. And then we have a board of trustee, and that can rotate. So it's a one-year term on the board of trustee, unless no one else wants to do it, and the current trustee serving wants to stay on. So otherwise it rotates. And then through our membership, we have to have a chairperson and a vice chairperson. They must be elected from the parent representatives. So community members and district employees cannot serve as a chairperson or vice chairperson. Qualities of SHAC members, again, if you're kind of wondering, well, how did I get picked? So again, coming from our guide for Texas school districts, qualities that are really kind of looked for in SHAC members are people who have a commitment to quality school health programs. Right? Everyone sitting in this room is committed to the health of our students. There's a demonstrated interest in youth, an awareness of your community, professional ability to work within a group. And I will say this, anytime we talk about health of students, not just health curriculum, but health in general of students, it's passionate. And it is very important that as adults and professionals, we can listen to each other and hear each other and work together. Doesn't mean we all agree all the time, but we have to be able to listen and work together. We have to have the ability to offer suggestions. So hopefully you were selected because you are somebody who will offer insight, offer perspective from your community or as a parent, and also to be able to act appropriately within the bylaws and the procedures that are set forth in SHAC. SHAC is a commitment of time, especially if you serve on classroom health and sex ed, because Ben is a slave driver. Anyway, it is a commitment of time. So hopefully, ideally, it's once a month, but There are standing committee meetings that can happen in between, and those are called at the need of the standing committee. And our classroom health and sex ed has a lot of work to do, so that's hence why they meet more frequently, actually about once a week. And then ideally, our SHAC is a diverse representation. As you can see, we try to keep an equitable voice from all of our single member districts. Of course, parent voices always needs to be the greatest in SHAC, and that's why it has to be 51% parent membership. And then our district employees are here really as resources for research, for anything that you need. So they are mainly just a resource for the SHAC. Meetings, spelled out in law, minimum of 4 times a year. As you saw, I sent you all the meeting list. We have 5 scheduled for this year. Our SHAC year begins August 1st and goes through June 30th. The first meeting always has to happen before the end of September. Like other public meetings, the meeting notice has to be posted within 72 hours. That is sent to the campus principals and to central office where it gets posted. It's also posted on our SHAC website. And full meetings have to be open to the public for viewing. They have to be recorded. That's why we hold them in here. We realize that squeezing 50 of you in here is starting to get a little bit tight, but it's all good. But this is the best setup for recording that. And then they are posted on our website, usually within about 2 to 3 days, but we have about 10 days. It just depends on, what the powers that be who deal with the technology side. As soon as they get them to us, we get them posted on our SHAC website. Again, everything is on neisd.net/SHAC. Current meetings have their own page where the videos are listed, and then you can also access the archived meetings using the archived meeting. Our design is that we have 4 standing committees out of SHAC: our classroom health and sex ed, fitness and physical activity, nutrition, and safe and healthy schools. And so each of those standing committees really does the real work. That's where the work actually happens. But final decisions are never made in a standing committee. They always come to the full SHAC before they can then go to the board as a recommendation. So just because you might serve on fitness and physical activity does not mean you don't have a voice in what classroom health and sex ed presents to the board, because everything runs through full SHAC before it ever makes it to the Board of Trustees as a recommendation. Northeast ISD also has a K-SHAC. That's our kids' SHAC. They meet separately. We meet in the evenings, usually about twice a year. Their main purpose for existing is to provide any standing committee with input from student perspective. So if a committee, I know last year, one of our Safe and Healthy Schools wanted some input on safety from the kids' perspectives. How are you feeling about safety on the campuses? What are things that you worry about as a student? They had some really great questions, and our K-SHAC gave some tremendous feedback on that. Our K-SHAC is secondary students, 6th through 12th grade. We try to keep an even composition of kids, and we try to get students to come on in 6th grade and stay on through when they graduate. That doesn't always work out that way, but that's our goal. We try to keep it a pretty consistent rotation in there. And then on top of feedback is we work with our students to be health advocates back on their campus. Last year, we partnered with the American Heart Association, and our K-SHAC students went back to their campuses and really promoted some different health areas like anti-vaping, getting enough sleep, things like that back on their campuses. So they are also health advocates as well. What's the difference between SHAC regular meetings and standing committee work sessions? Well, a lot. We are in a regular meeting right now. These get the 72-hour postings. There's at least 4 required a year. They're open and recorded. And here is where we do presentations for the good of the group. Sometimes people want to present to a specific standing committee because it is a very specific topic, right? And it would start at the standing committee, and the standing committee would say, you know what, we need to take this to the whole SHAC. And so then that presentation can come to full SHAC. Anything that is desired to be turned into a recommendation to the board, again, has to go to full SHAC. So the regular meetings are what by law we have to have 4. And then we have 5 on the books so far this year. Standing committee work sessions are usually scheduled in between those full meetings. They do not have to happen at the same time, the same day. Each standing committee can make that schedule as needed. Some committees need to meet more often because they have a project they have to get done than others. And so that is the people in that standing committee will decide that. You'll communicate that to me as the facilitator. I will find you a location and a place, and we'll get everything communicated. So it really just depends on the work. And your work as a standing committee really revolves around pretty much two things. The school health index data, which we will talk about at your first standing committee meeting. It's in our SHAC folders that you all will have access to. And then any suggested recommendations to revise our wellness plan. That's really where a lot of the SHAC work lives. And in Northeast ISD, it is asked of the SHAC to be a part of any recommendations to updating our wellness plan. So those are some of the guidance documents that are also posted on our website if you want to look at any of those, along with our BDF, along with bylaws and all of that. So that's really the difference. Standing committee work sessions are not open to the public. Those are closed. And the reason that is in order to have honest conversations and to be able to openly discuss topics before it moves forward to full SHAC, they are in there. And again, no final decisions can be made in a standing committee. All decisions have to go through full SHAC. So nothing can be happening in these standing committees that doesn't get shared out with full SHAC. For transparency, last year, we did begin to post notes from those standing committees on our website because we do want people realizing we're not trying to hide, but we also do need to be able to have conversations in that committee and hash some things out before they move forward. So the notes can be found on the SHAC website. What are the expectations for you as a member? Well, you're expected to attend all the meetings. Thank you, everybody who's here today. Monthly sign-in sheets are shared with the Board of Trustees. So the sign-in sheet that will always be in that back room is scanned and forwarded to the trustees so they know which of their appointments are attending meetings. It is possible that 3 consecutive meetings or standing meetings, any combination, 3 consecutive missed could result in your trustee removing you. So just know that I just send the attendance sheets, right? And the trustees look at that. So they may give you a call if they see. So it is really important. Don't forget to sign in. That's the big thing that I will say. In full meetings, the sign-in sheets are always back there. In standing committees, we try to remind everyone, but just always try to remember to do that sign-in. We do ask that, again, that you provide input. That's why you're on the committee. You're not here to just sit and listen. You're here to provide input. Everyone is expected to serve on a standing committee. And this is a big one. Share pertinent information with your community. So it's not just you're doing a great service by helping to come up with great ideas, but also then communicating out to your school what's going on. For example, Classroom Health and Sex Ed, I know when they started planning to do the public meeting for the curriculum, many of the members reached out to their campuses, to other parents to make sure that they knew. The more communication that we can get, the better. So you are kind of that liaison as well. So feel free to be sharing information with your school, the PTA, community organizations, places of business. That's why we have community members on here. And then the biggest thing is the commitment to support health and wellness initiatives presented by SHAC. So if SHAC is presenting an initiative, it's our duty to really kind of support that publicly as part of our SHAC when we move forward. So we'll talk about function. What do you do, right? So now, I mean, you know the meetings, you know all of that. And again, we go back to that mission. So the statute specifies that SHAC must recommend curriculum and instructional materials for the following topics: obesity prevention, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, suicide, opioid addiction and abuse, human sexuality, child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. And that last bullet was added in the last few years. So again, as I said, the legislature keeps kind of adding more responsibilities to SHAC on things that they need to do. For example, they've even added that if a district is looking to make any changes to its human sexuality curriculum, what we all know as sex ed, or anything related to child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking, not only does that have to be recommended by SHAC, but the SHAC has to hold 2 public meetings on that before they can even make a recommendation. So a lot of what the SHAC is doing is coming from the different laws, but these are the categories of areas that the SHAC is encouraged to make those recommendations on, or actually have to make recommendations on. So those are instructional recommendations, but SHAC also makes policy recommendations. Again, we have no vote. We only have a voice. So we make recommendations on policy. One of the big ones is the importance of daily recess. How much time do we want our elementary students spending in recess? I know our Fitness and Physical Activity Committee is doing a lot of work around that and ensuring that our students are getting that recess. So policy, and that's where the FFAR that I mentioned, our wellness plan. So recommendations to the wellness plan are policy recommendations as opposed to curriculum recommendations as in sex ed curriculum that we're using in our health classes. So nutritional guidelines, so we have a nutrition committee, and again, that comes into our wellness plan. So recommendations on policy that deal with any of these topics that are listed on the screen. And then communication. So there are lots of feedback channels with SHAC. One is from district employees to SHAC standing committees. So the reason we have our district employees on SHAC is to be able to sit in the standing committee meetings and to answer your questions. So maybe we're looking, for example, at our Fitness and Physical Activity Committee is looking again at the recess policy recommendations. We brought in the executive director of elementary to talk to us about schedules for elementary and where could we find minutes to increase recess, right? To help us understand those things. So we can invite in district employees if they don't currently serve on SHAC, or we have any of our district employees that could be invited to come to a particular standing committee to give input, insight into how the district works. From outside of the SHAC to the SHAC, here's how people communicate with you. SHAC@neisd.net. So any email that is sent to SHAC@neisd.net, I will forward to the entire SHAC. What we wound up doing last year is I waited until I responded, and if it was something that I couldn't speak to, let's say it wasn't just a clarifying question, it was something for a particular standing committee. Last year, Chase got a lot of questions. I would forward that to Tony as our chair, to Ben because he was the chair of Chase, Rachel Brodeen as the vice chair. And I would say, let me know how you want to respond. And when they would send me the response, I would send it to the person, and then I would forward you the initial email with the response, if that makes sense. That way, you aren't getting 3 and 4 emails on the same thread, right? So that's kind of the system that we put in place, and it seemed to work really well. But anything emailed to shac@neisd.net, I do have to send to everyone. If it doesn't require a response, I send it immediately. So if it is asking for a response, I try to get the person who is over that area to respond to that, rather than me as the facilitator. Also, standing committees to full SHAC. Again, you will always bring any recommendations to full SHAC, and that is what we do at these meetings. So the agenda is really created by Tony in connection with all of the chairs of the different standing committees. What we started to do last year is I would just kind of host a little Zoom with all of us to get together so everybody could talk to Tony about anything their committee might want added to the agenda. Ultimately, Tony makes that decision with my collaboration, and again, we bring in the feedback from all of your standing committee chairs. And then from SHAC to the Board of Trustees, typically that is going to happen once you make the recommendations at a public board meeting is how we make those recommendations. So it becomes a presentation to the board. So those are our main feedback channels. And do you have any questions about anything that I just zoomed through? Our big overview of SHAC. Yes. Can we get her microphone? Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. It probably has to do with some of the legal stuff like the bylaws and that type of thing, but I did want to just clarify. I remember at the end of the year signing a conflict of interest for like the textbook. Do we need to sign one for SHAC? I know we have a lot of community members, which is really good to represent the community, but do we need to make sure that, for instance, community members may not be in businesses that might have a contract with the district, therefore a conflict of interest?
There's nothing written that we have to, but I will ask that question. I will put that on my list of something to investigate to find out. Okay. I also know in the past there used to be a confidentiality agreement that SHAC members would sign, but now that meetings have to be open, it seems like a moot point. So I'm also looking for guidance on that as well. Okay. So thank you. Great question.
Just as kind of a point of interest, I guess, one of our meetings last year, especially for those that are new, we had almost a full meeting spent on updating and making recommendations for the bylaws. And that kind of went by the wayside then. Could I make a motion perhaps that we make that our next first order of business to finish that off? Would that be reasonable? Because I think the grunt work has more or less been done. It was left to make final edits.
Yes, that is something that this SHAC committee is a big proponent of. What we've got to do is we've got to update the bylaws and come to a consensus within the SHAC so that we can then present them to the Board of Trustees.
Okay. Well, and part of where that comes from, and just if everybody's on board with this, one of the recommendations that we had in there was to take our committee's dealings to the board at some point, or maybe once a year, get some guidance from the board so that we know that our committee is working on things that are going to be in the board's best interest, and we're not running down a rabbit hole, maybe wasting our time. And I know last year in our Safe and Healthy Schools Committee, when the sex trafficking got taken away from us, it was kind of like, okay, now what? And we were brainstorming things to do, and I felt like those meetings, I would much rather see those meetings be more fruitful for the board and for all of us too. And so I think if maybe after we establish our committee chairs, maybe the chairs could go to the board with our proposals potentially, and just say, hey, is this worthwhile, and get any feedback.
I have another question in the back.
So I'm also on the Safe and Healthy Schools Committee as well. We did have a purpose that was established using our school health, what is it?
School Health Index.
Yes. So we did have some pretty strong, what's the word I'm looking for? Guidance or purpose initially. And so I think really using some of the existing data in order to establish that would really be a better start. Just my
Thank you. And if there are no more questions, Tony, I'll turn it back to you. I'm done with my part, and hopefully we've got those notes down.
Thank you very much. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the SHAC Standing Committee reports. So if I could go ahead and start off with Ben Elliott, if you'll provide an update as to the classroom health and sex ed.
And if I may, pay very close attention so you know which standing committee you might want to be on based on what work they've got coming up.
I'm gonna try to keep mine as brief as possible because I know we're kind of tight on time and people have work and things. So
just a second, Ben, real quick. If you'll obviously, I want all of the standing committee chairs to give an update, but also give an expectation from a standpoint of number of meetings, that type of thing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to try to focus on. So as far as an update, our work was relatively public. We went through the process of selecting and recommending a new sex ed curriculum for middle school and high school, which was Choosing the Best was the program we selected. We recommended it to the board with some recommended edits that we as a committee deemed necessary or in the best interest of the district. The board adopted our recommendation. Our recommendation was based on, again, us being able to make some edits, which includes not handing printed materials from the publisher to the students. Instead, the district's creating NEISD-specific student workbooks and teacher guides, which are based out of the workbooks, but it gives us more flexibility to really tailor in on the content in them based on the Texas Education Code and the TEKS, which are the governing rules for the curriculum. It was our decision as a committee to adhere to the guidelines of the Texas Education Code and to the TEKS to the T, but not take it one step beyond and not insert any opinions or any, any of our own will into it. We just follow the letter of the law exactly. And that's what we kind of did. We already went through it with the high school program, brought the high school before the board. The board adopted it. it will be in classrooms this first semester. And as far as expectations, we still have quite a bit of work to do to create the same edits and recommend to the board for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade levels of that curriculum based on the similar guidelines we used for high school. Based on the time frame we have in order to get those in classrooms for this year, it's a really tight window. And we're going to have to probably, as SHAC, we're probably are going to meet once a week, at least through the beginning of November. So if Classroom Health and Sex Ed is the committee you want to be on, free up your Fridays for a while, because we're going to do it on Fridays over lunch for the foreseeable future until we get that done. The goal is to, by middle of November, have recommendations to the Board of Trustees. Other than that, you know, we're a good group, at least the ones that are returning that I know. Everybody worked very well together last year. Every decision we came to was deliberated on, but ended up being unanimously decided because, you know, we were blessed to have such a good cohesion, and everybody listened, right? It was a respectful environment. So I'm happy to welcome any of y'all that want to be on the committee. Like I said, just make sure, please, if you do, make sure that you can commit the time, because we do have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
How long were those meetings?
We carved out an hour, but they ended up being two and a half sometimes. We did Zoom a few, I will say that. So, yes. So we're not starting this Friday, by the way. We are starting next Friday. I apologize for not stating that clearly. I would like to start this Friday, but I will be in the Rio Grande Valley for work. So September 1st, I believe that's correct. Is that?
That is the next Friday.
September
yes.
1st will be our first meeting date.
Thank you, Ben. The next committee is the Fitness and Physical Activity. Debbie, can I have you please give an update?
Good afternoon. Our committee, currently we've been working and investigating on recommending increased elementary recess time. We've also been investigating the possibility of having an open play time outside of school hours, preferably before school for our middle school students. In the past, our committee has worked on getting more bike racks at schools so that students aren't having to just leave their bikes or tether them to one of the trees. We've also advocated for more awareness and recognition of the walk and bike to school days, and not just that on the national day, the specific day that's been set aside, but every day. And if that's not feasible because of maybe not having sidewalks or it's a busy area as far as walking and biking to school, if that's not conducive, that they could use our campus facilities such as the tracks and the gyms. And they can, you know, if there's any other safety issues in that. We've also investigated the student and teacher ratios in the PE classes, particularly at the elementary level, so that we can encourage maximum student involvement and participation, and not have everybody just kind of sitting over to the side waiting for their turn to participate. We want to have everybody participating the whole time. Finally, we've also initiated a campus activity list of before and after school non-UIL programs for reference, so that maybe a school can go on there, see what's being offered at another particular school they might be interested in providing at their campus, and it has the contact information on there, and we're going to try to keep that up to date if we can, so in case they're willing to start a similar program on their campus, like maybe any physical activity clubs or anything along that line. And as far as meeting, we don't meet near as much as Ben's committee meets. We pretty much meet what Jen has put out in the way of our meetings. We have our own standing committee meetings, but we have had, like our guest speaker who came in and talked to us in regards to our recess recommendation. We will call some special meetings time to time, and there might be a little bit of homework, but I promise it's not anything bad.
Great, thank you very much. Next is the nutrition. Jennifer?
All right. Last year, nutrition was a bunch of us newbies, so it started a little slow, but then we got some traction. First off, the meeting conversation. So we were meeting every day that the SHAC standing committees met, of course, and then on the regular full meetings, we just started coming in early and hanging out, eating in there before you guys got here, and talking about nutrition. So that would kind of be the expectation going forward. So probably not outside of the normal dates, just maybe a little bit of time before the full SHAC. Okay, as far as the things that we were really kind of focusing on, we've really started kind of circling around conversations around breakfast in the mornings before school started. Last year was the year that not everything was free as opposed to the 2 years before. So we want to get some information about how many kids are eating free breakfast, how many are paying for breakfast, so how often is that used, and is there some ideas about maybe some grab-and-go stuff as opposed to sitting down and having the meal that they offer. And so we are getting ready to ask Jennifer to help us ask some of the principals, athletic directors, band directors, things like that when you start thinking about middle school and high school and kids that come in early, asking questions about, how often can kids, what's the availability of kids getting out early enough in between that before school starts that they can, take advantage of those, and just starting to kind of circle around checking those things out and firming up some recommendations. So that's where we're at. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And for the Safe and Healthy Schools.
All right. Well, last year for Safe and Healthy Schools, we started off really busy. So in addition to just the sex ed curriculum being dealt with, our committee was initially going to deal with the how we're going to handle sex trafficking, and as a separate topic. As these meetings were getting underway, we met every week and every other week initially, and then it was kind of decided as a whole that topic was best held under the Safe and Healthy Schools Committee, or under the classroom and sex ed, because there was so much overlap. And so once that was taken away from us, we kind of pivoted a little bit, and the focus then became on how can we get back to what the students and the teachers would perceive as a safer environment in the school. We got some data from the SHAC on what they felt was were some issues, and again from other teachers and just current topics that were going on in the community. So our meetings will be, I would imagine, at least once a month, and sometimes maybe weekly or every other week, depending on the topics at hand. So right now, I'm sure there's going to be some issues coming in the future. There's no hot button topics that we left the year off with. We didn't have a formal recommendation to the board because we didn't have really anything formal to work on. We were kind of promoting some awareness for the suicide and mental health hotlines that are already existing, and some other ways to get those out in the schools, but no formal recommendation was made. So my hope is that we can get some guidance from our employees and the board on, hey, what are the hot topics that need to happen right now? So safe and healthy school environment, imagine what that could encompass. So one of the things we discussed last year was discipline policies within the school. The district got a big grant from the government last year on mental health services. And so how is that going to be implemented? That could potentially fall under our committee to provide guidance and recommendations back to the board as well. So that's kind of what Safe and Healthy Schools is all about. That's kind of it. That's all I have.
And I'm going to piggyback on that. If you've been watching any board meetings, that actually has come up. Y'all are about to get as busy as Chase, I think.
Okay. Plan on probably once a week. And the other thing too is we try to be pretty understanding with scheduling those meetings. Everybody's time is important. Most all of us, if you're working right now, you have to budget out some time during your day. So those might be, last year we did Wednesdays during lunch because that was the best time for most of us. That's going to be flexible, so we'll deal with that along the way. I would anticipate no matter what, that's going to be, it may be an evening on a Zoom call or something like that, but that's obviously we want to do our best to accommodate everybody and get the most voices present as possible. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Okay, moving on, the standing committee selections. So Jen did talk about, Article 7, Section 1D of NEISD SHAC bylaws state that standing committees shall be comprised of a minimum of one parent from each SMD. Each SMD has 4 parent representatives, so they're going to fall on each of the 4 standing committees. She talked about the 51% parents or legal guardians for each standing committee. And so what we'd like to do is break out into the 4 existing standing committees. If you're returning,
they can't break out yet.
okay,
So where they're sitting,
okay,
they're going to
Okay. All right, so yeah. I'm sorry. No, yeah, that's exactly right. So each cluster will determine which of the 4 standing committees that you would like to serve on. If you are a returning board member, can I get everybody's attention, please? Can I get everybody's attention, please? Okay. Can I get everybody's attention, please? All right. I wanted to give some guidelines. So if you're a returning SHAC member, you have the first right of refusal to stay on that standing committee that you served on, or you can decide to serve on another one. So just wanted to give some guidelines. Okay. Sure.
Community members, back table, I'll talk y'all through it.
One more? Do we need, does everybody have their, the standing committee? If I can get everybody's attention, please. Okay, so if we got everybody's standing committee that divvied up between the different clusters as well as the community members. Can I get a thumbs up that we're all good? All right, great. In lieu of time, what we're going to do is we're going to have each of the standing committees then vote for the chair, the vice chair, and then the note taker for each of those at the individual standing committee meetings, okay? All right. All right. It depends on what you say.
So I don't know what the makeup ended up being of Chase, but once that gets passed out, I'll email Jen to email everybody that's on there, and there's some homework we can start doing. Get her to share access to the shared drive so that we can kind of be prepared with the comments that we'll need to make and address at the meeting. So.
All right. With that, let's see. Before we adjourn, let's see. Okay, before we adjourn, standing committees are reminded that if time permits, that they may break into work sessions, obviously starting next week. The SHAC would like to remind that the public that these work sessions are closed. Previous standing committees and work session notes may be found on the NEISD SHAC webpage once reviewed and approved by the standing committee. Thank you for your attendance. The time is now 1:37, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Look forward to working with everyone.